Thanks so much for your time. I am Pius Kojobaka. And look now at our stories. This evening, the Ghana Statistical Service has revealed that the total value of informal trade in the fourth quarter of 2024 is estimated at 7.4 billion cedis. We have more for you in this report.
According to the report, the survey covered 321 border points across 10 out of the 16 administrative regions of the country, with the Volta region recording the highest of 76 border points. Trade with Togo remains the most informal out of the three neighboring countries. The eastern neighbor of Ghana led with the highest import of about 1.8 billion cedis, while Burkina Faso recorded the highest export of 1.7 billion cedis. A deficit of 538.9 million cedis was recorded with Togo, highlighting the high volume of imports from that country. Here is government statistician Dr. Alhassan Idrisu.
In the fourth quarter of 2024, the total value of informal cross-border trade was estimated at 7.4 billion Ghana cedis. This means that the informal trade accounted for about 4.3% of Ghana's total trade for the quarter in question.
The survey pointed out that more than two-thirds of formal imports, which represent 74.6% from neighboring countries, are food products, compared to almost 49.5% for informal imports. These imports are largely dominated by food items such as alcoholic beverages, cooking oil, livestock, and other beverages. Dr. Idrisu urged businesses to invest in the production of such consumables to reduce import dependency.
There is a need to support informal traders through upgrading of border infrastructure and provision of registration, access to credit, and training to make trade faster and easier. We should boost local production of goods like cooking oil, rice, and mattresses to cut import dependence and create jobs. Ladies and gentlemen, businesses should see informal trade not as competition, but as a source of market intelligence and opportunity.
In its recommendations, the government statistician called for reforms aimed at formalizing the informal sector and improving the porous nature of the country's border points. He noted that country-level collaborations will be helpful in facilitating data sharing and policy formulation.
And we want to have a broader conversation on the back of this revelation by the Ghana Statistical Service as they've released the informal trade report for the fourth quarter of 2024. Joining us via Zoom is economist Professor Peter Quartey for us to have this conversation. Pleasure you could join us on Business Live, and good to see you. I truly appreciate your time. Now, first off, let's make sense out of this picture, the figure we are learning so far by the Ghana Statistical Service. How does this estimate, that's 7.4 billion cedis of informal trade in quarter 4 2024, impact our understanding when it comes to Ghana's overall trade performance and economic growth?
Yeah, it's so significant. Let me say good evening to your discerning viewers and listeners. It's so significant. That's about 4.3% thereabout of total trade, and I think that is still significant. I can also say that we've not been able to capture everything. I don't think the Statistical Service is able to capture 100% all the trade that flows across our borders. There are instances where people use unapproved routes and other means to trade. So we've not been able to capture, but at least it tells us that there's a significant trade amongst us between Ghana and Togo, Ghana and our eastern corridors, and many other neighboring countries. And that calls for stronger collaboration. That calls for us to also look at some of the things we tend to import. And if we can ramp up production, then we can minimize how much of these goods that we import into the country.
And it is for this reason I want to know how this data on informal trade can inform policy decisions or interventions, basically, aimed at promoting formalization and, of course, economic growth.
Yeah, I think the Statistical Service has given us a lot of information to chew on. They've told us the kind of goods that are being imported or exported. They've told us the the routes, etc., the countries or the destinations, import or export destinations. So it is up to us to look at those ones that are low-hanging fruits that we can immediately increase production. Those we can invest, and then in the medium to long term, we can produce more. We do so. Also, looking at the demand for some of the products and where our brothers and sisters in neighboring countries cannot produce, we can take advantage of our comparative advantage and produce more of such goods and export and earn foreign exchange. Togo, for instance, you see a lot of cassava products being carried across the borders. I mean, if you travel to Lomé, you see how many of our women and men carrying things across the borders and trading. I believe there is a demand for these products, and we have to take advantage. Policy intervention in terms of facilitating access, facilitating easy passage, even providing support in terms of credit for production, to boost local production would be a good idea.
Professor Kwasi, talk to me about the potential revenue implications for the government, considering the significant value of informal trade, like you mentioned, and how can tax policies be optimized to capture this segment?
Yeah, so what it brings, certainly it will bring forex into our economy, to bring tax revenue if we strategize. So we have to invest first in terms of border control. We have to invest in terms of access, so that those who want to export or import can use official channels. And by so doing, customs can also tax to enable us to raise more revenue. Otherwise, most of these things go informal and they are not taxed. So we lose a lot of revenue. Mind you, informal economy forms about 70 to 80% of our economy. And so it is quite huge. And if we need to raise revenue, we have to find a way of roping in the informal sector. But it also requires investing and also ensuring that those who trade within the informal sector benefit. As you tax them, also provide incentives, provide benefits, so that they'll be willing to comply and pay taxes.
And how expedient should these recommendations you are offering be?
I think it should be immediately. I mean, it's something that some of them are, as I said, are low-hanging fruits. Some we can just position our borders. Some we can just get our revenue authorities to, position themselves and be taxing some of these commodities. Some we can provide access so they can trade easily, and we can also provide some credit or link them with the financial institutions to support the production of certain commodities that are needed in our neighboring countries.
Professor Peter Kwasi, always a delight speaking to you here on Business Live. Grateful you could make time to join the conversation. Professor Peter Kwasi is an economist, and we want to shift focus from trade-related stories to some other stories. And commercial banks have insisted that they don't have any role in the creation and issuance of import declaration forms for businesses. The banks have therefore quickly moved to distance themselves from the current abuse of the system. More in this report.
Ghana's Association of Banks, in a statement again, maintained that it has detected a practice where certain businesses use the import declaration forms to initiate advance payments. However, when these goods arrive, what is declared doesn't match documents submitted earlier to authorities. The association, in the statement, maintained that it has therefore taken steps together with the Bank of Ghana and other agencies to halt these practices. The association, in a statement, maintained that together with the Bank of Ghana, they have taken certain steps to halt these practices, but insisted they have no role in aiding and supporting these businesses to undertake these practices.
The turnover of the secondary bond market strengthened notably by 29.99% week on week to 2.43 billion cedis from 1.87 billion cedis the previous week. More from Data Bank Research report. The February 2027 maturity dominated flows with 591.25 million cedis in volumes traded. The 2027 to 2030 bonds led market activity, capturing 42.9% of total volumes at a weighted average yield of 15.68%. Meanwhile, the 2031 to 2038 papers followed, jointly accounting for 57.1% of total trades within a tight yield corridor of 15.73% to 15.81%. Data Bank research pointed out it expects market activity to remain steady, supported by improved liquidity and sustained interest in the belly of the curve, where risk-adjusted returns remain attractive. Joy Business understands that investors continue to seek incremental carry while maintaining a defensive duration stance amid expectations of the government's re-entry into the primary bond market. You're still watching Business Life. We have the Joy Business van for you after this break. Now, stakeholders in rice production say the country's yields could increase by 1 ton per hectare if the country commits to improving rice seeds. Now, this was revealed at a stakeholder engagement under the Africa Field Innovation Center for Agricultural Technology, an initiative aimed at improving agriculture production.
According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Grain and Feed Annual 2025 report, Ghana is projected to import about 1 million metric tons of rice by 2026, which accounts for approximately 70% of the country's rice consumption. To improve rice production locally, the Ghana Rice Production Improvement Project, supported by the Japan International Cooperation Agency, JICA, seeks to enhance quality of rice seeds and promote the adoption of modern technology in rice farming. The initiative forms part of the Africa Field Innovation Center for Agricultural Technology. Speaking to the media, Lubuaki Uzumi, chief advisor on the project, stated that the intervention is expected to boost rice yields by 1 ton per hectare.
We are working with CRI, Crop Research Institute, to produce better breeder seed first. And then we are trying to use that good seed for the foundation seed and then certified seed. And we are producing foundation seed and certified seed in target irrigation schemes. So we are trying to increase about 1 ton per hectare. So our baseline, the average yield was about 1.9 ton. So we want to increase the average yield to 2.9 ton or 3 ton.
Meanwhile, Tomokazu Makai, project advisor at JICA, outlined plans by the Japanese government to further support agricultural development in Ghana.
Currently, we have been focusing on the value chain development, especially focusing on support for smallholder farmers. And we have been working for this with our counterpart organizations in MOFA, Ministry of Food and Agriculture, over the years.
That's our package by way of Business Life. I am Pius Kujubaka.